Good morning, artists. Last week we talked all about making cartoon characters, and this week we're going to go a little bit deeper into drawing figures. So, figure is just a way that artists refer to the human body. And one way that they've gotten really good at drawing figures over the years is by breaking it down into proportions. When I use the word proportion, it really is just a way of saying how big everything is in relation to everything else. So, the unit of measurement we're going to use for right now is the head. Did you know that the average adult person is about 7.5 heads tall? So that means if it were possible for me to take off my head and stack it on top of itself, I would be about 7.5 heads tall. Now actually, I'm a little bit on the shorter side, so I would be probably right about 7 heads tall. A slightly taller person could be 8 heads tall. If you are a supermodel or a superhero or any kind of idealized figure, you might even be 9 heads tall. One interesting thing about human proportions is that they change over time. For example, in this picture of this infant, you can see that if they were standing, they would be about 4.5 heads tall. But as you grow, your body lengthens and your head gets smaller in proportion to everything else. For this example that we're going to do together in class, we're going to do a figure that is 7 heads tall.
For this example, the first thing I'm going to do is make a head shape. I'm just going to keep it really simple with an oval, and I'm going to make 7 of those ovals stacked top to bottom, just so I can see roughly how tall my figure needs to be. The next thing I need to do is decide where to put the shoulders. So I'm going to put the shoulders between the second and third oval. I'm just going to put one on either side because the typical shoulders, at least for a male figure, are about 3 heads wide. And then as you can see, I put 2 heads next to each other where the waist would be, leaving 3 heads at the bottom for the legs. Now I'm starting to just add some details, and I'm going to erase these heads now because now that I have the body parts in place, I don't really need them and they will just get in the way. So I'm just going to erase those, and now we're ready to keep working. Alright, so now that I have the basic proportion, I'm going to start making limbs. So I'm going to make some feet and some legs there, but of course legs aren't just shapes that go straight down. They have muscles, calves, and thighs. So I'm going to segment those a little bit. You can see I've made the kneecap. And I'm showing you how I just have to keep erasing and redoing things. That's completely natural. That's a part of the process. It's really hard to get it right the first time. Sometimes you have to do it wrong a couple times before you realize how it needs to be, and that was very much the case for me when I was working on this one. Alright, so I'm making one hand on the hip, and you can see how that hand is kind of clenched into a fist there. But just for contrast, I'm going to do one with an open palm too, just so you can see my process there. I'm making the palm of the hand, and then I'm adding some spikes that are going to be fingers. Then I'm going to go over those outlines and soften them a little bit, so they look more like hands. Hands are really tricky to draw and you might need a lot of practice. I'm not completely happy with that one, but I'm going to keep moving on. And it looks like I didn't leave quite enough space in that hip area for both of those legs to be, so I'm stretching it out just a little bit. Now this person can comfortably stand a little bit better. And as you can see on the feet, one is pointing towards us and the other is pointing to the side. A common mistake that a lot of people make when they're drawing feet is they make the feet pointing in opposite directions, kind of like how this ballerina is standing. But most humans, to balance, really need to stand this way with one toe pointing forward and the other to the side. So that's what I've done in my drawing here. One toe is pointing forward, the other is pointing to the side. Now we're going to go ahead to the head itself, and to show you this, I'm going to do another example where we can zero in on some of those details. Alright, to demonstrate the head, I'm going to start with a circle. I'm going to lengthen that circle by adding the jaw lines, and then I'm going to make a chin at the bottom with another circle, and use those lines to blend it all together. Now I'm going to take that whole shape that I made and put a line about perfectly in half. That's going to show me my eye line, where the eyes need to be. A lot of people think of the eyes as being towards the top of the head, but they're actually smack dab in the middle, so that's what I've done there. And then halfway between the eyes and the chin is going to be where the nose is, and halfway between the chin and the nose is going to be where the lips are. So you can draw some lines to help yourself get a sense of those. If I were to try to put eyes all across the surface of my face, it would be about 5 eyes wide, so that's a helpful way to think about measuring that. And the tip of our nose has what's called the ball of the nose. It's that little rounded part at the end of our nose. And then on the sides of those are the wings of the nose. That's what covers your nostrils. So we can think about those shapes as we're making that. And then a standard way to do lips is kind of with this shape where it's a little dipped in the middle. You can see I'm making some football shapes for the eyes, making an eyebrow line above that, just breaking it down nice and easy. The eyebrow line also shows me where the top of the ear needs to be. So the top of the ear goes all the way from the eyebrow line down to right about where the nose is. I'm going to make some pupils in the middle of those eyes and just darken it up. And then just like we looked at with anime last week, there's usually a reflective area in the eye where you can see a little bit of light gleaming, and that's what I'm leaving right there. This face looked very young or very feminine just because it was very narrow. I'm going to widen out the jaw a little bit, and that might give it more of a masculine look. Now we can see that this looks more like a male figure if the jaw is a little bit wider. Now, of course, that's not always true. Men and women don't always fall neatly into categories like that. But just see what that looks like if we widen the jaw a little bit. Same with the lips. Maybe we want to de-emphasize the lips a little bit. If you outline the lips too much, it might make it look like your figure is wearing lipstick. If you want that, great. If you don't, you might want to soften that a little bit. Okay, and I'm just adding some hair. Yeah, so this is one way you can make a face. If those proportions are helpful to you, great. If not, you can do it your own way. Adding a little bit of shading right now. Just shading the edges of whatever you make tends to make it look a little bit three-dimensional, and if you're using a pencil, you can use your finger to blend it in. Adding some shading under the nostrils and under the lip there. There we go. And I'm going to add some dark areas inside the ears where you can tell that the eardrum is back there. Okay, so now I'm going to make my second figure, and the first one I showed you was a male figure. I'm going to show you a female figure now. So generally speaking, women have more narrow shoulders and broader hips. Now that's not always true, but for this drawing, that's the example that we're going to show just for a little bit of contrast. Okay, so this is still a figure that's about 7 heads tall, and again I'm erasing all those little details that I don't need in the middle. And then I'm a strong advocate for outlining, so again I'm using my Micron pen just to make some of those lines permanent. So sometimes the first pass is with pencil and you're just kind of making lines that you're not super sure of. But then once you've lived with it for a little while, you can decide what you want to stay, what you want to accentuate with an outline. Like I want to get some different shapes in this hair, maybe some more details on the face than what I did in the first pass. You know, that kind of thing. And that in a nutshell is how you can make your own figures.
I hope this was helpful to you, and if you feel inspired, I would love to see any drawings of people, figures, and or faces that you want to do. And if you watch this and you decide, that's not really for me, that's completely fine. You are more than welcome to make any other kind of art that you feel inspired by. The most important thing is just that you make something. And whenever you've finished whatever it is that you've made, you can hit that add response button, upload either a photo or a video of your work, and then I will be able to see and comment. I'm looking forward to seeing what you make, and I hope you have a great time making it. See you later.